Allegory, allegorical method. An allegory is a literary or artistic work that uses symbolic characters, objects, and events to convey a deeper meaning or message. It is a figurative representation of an abstract idea, moral principle, or historical event, often used to make complex or abstract concepts more accessible and relatable to a wider audience. The allegorical method is a method of interpretation used in literature, art, and theology to uncover the hidden or underlying meaning of an allegory. It involves identifying the various elements of the allegory, such as the characters, objects, and events, and interpreting them as symbols that represent something else. This method is particularly useful in interpreting religious texts and works of art, which often use allegory to convey complex theological concepts and moral teachings. In theology, the allegorical method has been used for centuries to interpret the Bible and other religious texts. It is based on the belief that many passages of Scripture contain symbolic or metaphorical language that can be interpreted in a variety of ways. This method involves looking beyond the literal meaning of the text and identifying the underlying spiritual truths and moral principles that are being conveyed. The allegorical method was particularly popular in the early Christian Church, where it was used to interpret the Old Testament as a prefiguration of Christ and his teachings. The Church Fathers, such as Origen and Augustine, saw the Old Testament as a collection of allegories and types that pointed towards the coming of Christ and the establishment of the New Covenant. They believed that the literal meaning of the text was only a surface-level interpretation, and that the true meaning could only be found through allegorical interpretation. However, the allegorical method has been criticized by some scholars for its subjectivity and lack of objectivity. Critics argue that it can be used to justify any interpretation, regardless of how far-fetched or unsupported by the text it may be. They also argue that it can lead to a neglect of the literal meaning of the text, which is essential for understanding the historical and cultural context in which it was written. Despite these criticisms, the allegorical method remains an important tool for interpreting religious texts and works of art. It allows for a deeper understanding of the symbolism and metaphorical language used in these works, and can help to reveal hidden truths and moral teachings. However, it should be used with caution and in conjunction with other methods of interpretation, such as historical and contextual analysis, to ensure a well-rounded and accurate understanding of the text. Bible verses. Psalm chapter 78:2 I will open my mouth in a parable, I will utter dark sayings of old. Proverbs chapter 1:6 to understand a proverb, and the interpretation the words of the wise, and their dark sayings. Matthew chapter 13:34 All these things spake Jesus unto the multitude in parables, and without a parable spake he not unto them. John chapter 16:25 These things have I spoken unto you in Proverbs, but the time cometh, when I shall no more speak unto you in Proverbs, but I shall show you plainly of the Father. 2 Corinthians chapter 3:6 Who also hath made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Spirit, for the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life.